unless he's a Democrat killing Republicans, conservatives, that could be. You know, I mean, if he were a registered Democrat, I would buy him. That maybe that's the guy. But he appears not to have any political affiliation. Was he on medication? No one's talking about that. If he was on some meds and he's coming off his meds, it's suicidal. We all know that, certain kind of medication, but no one's revealed that. We don't know this guy is the killer. We don't know that. The evidence is not in. But I can tell you this, that entire hotel should have been swept and every single person fingerprinted and photographed to determine if any one of those people worked for the state and whether this was a false flag.
Okay, so you're so suspicious, Mike, you're so suspicious of false flag operations that you want to terrorize all the innocent people in that hotel, effectively put them under arrest, detain them without probable cause and without warrant, fingerprint them, interrogate them, holding them potentially for days because there are hundreds of people who are residing temporarily in that hotel. And you want that because you're suspicious of the deep state. Is that it?
Hotel room in Las Vegas. They're going to shoot them. Ooh. Come on, you have to do it. It wouldn't take days. It would take it took 10 hours. It took 10 hours. You go to a concert, it's going to take you 10 hours by the time you go there, by the time you spend, 2, 3, 4 hours there, and by the time you leave. So it's 10 hours. Big deal. Give a sleeping pill. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty big stuff. You don't just walk away from that. You have to investigate. You have to cordon off the area.
Okay, well, listen, we'll leave it there. Thanks, Mike, for calling. But no, innocent people are not made suspect because they're in the location where a crime is being committed. If you have a bank robbery, Mike, do you want there to be all the bank tellers to be interrogated as if somehow they're complicit? Do you want people who are there making deposits or putting $100 in a savings account to be interrogated as if somehow they're involved in the bank robbery? No, they're victims and they're potential witnesses, and that's it. But they can't be arrested. They can't be forced to go through body searches, cavity searches, bag searches. No, that is not how the law operates. The law does not make everybody in a crime scene the criminal. No, clearly there's one or two parties involved in an attack like this, and if they're not dead, then they're hunted. And if they are dead, then everybody's let go, and that's that. You don't detain people, you don't arrest people, you don't harass people just because violence has occurred. Mr. Castillo's girlfriend, why was she arrested? Why was she kept overnight without even a drink of water in a cell? For whose security? Her boyfriend has been murdered by a cop. How is it that her son was abducted and the family didn't know where he was either? How is that possible that the state, in its security orgasm, won't stop? It just won't stop. Keeps going and going and going. Where's the end to it? Well, I think we need to get to the fundamental questions, and I really appreciate your call, Mike. But there's a question we need to deal with here in Chattanooga, and that is, what do we want? Do we want justice or do we want security? Now, I propose that we should, especially people who are professing Christians, they should want justice, and they should look at security with a jaundiced eye, because we've been in a security culture since 1865. Was really when it began, but certainly much more aggressively since World War II, where we had the total state. In that time, we did have the total state, and the total state continues in new manifestations with digital surveillance. Outside its authority, right? Again, this is all illegal. The state, the modern state, is illegal at almost every point, and very few people have the means of resisting it, because it is ruinous to resist, right? It is ruinous to resist and to stand on your rights. It is simply impossible. And so, though there are defendants who finally have their cases heard 3 or 4 years after they've been indicted and jailed, and clear away a wicked law, that is a process that is done sacrificially, and no one does it intentionally. No one would intentionally agree to go through an ordeal of a criminal prosecution under a bad law, and yet it happens, and these people willy-nilly have to defend themselves. Of course, most people in our modern system don't defend themselves. They plea bargain because the feds and the state charge stack them so that it is prohibitively dangerous to defend yourself and to plead not guilty. You plead guilty to something you didn't do. You plead guilty under a wicked law, and so the law continues, right? And so this is a system which has a patina of justice, right? An appearance, a gloss of justice. The whole federal and state judicial system, and yet it is corrupt with dead men's bones. Corrupt with dead men's bones. And I ask you, my listener, you're not a Christian, okay, but you know people who say they are. What do they say about it? What have they heard in their churches sermons about justice? When's the last time you, my listener, who are not a Christian, you can even heard of a Christian minister or a Bible-believing person say, well, the scriptures really have a pretty particular requirement for justice. And it's not what we have today. That is a position that is a minority report in Christendom, at least in this continent and in the United States. It is a minority position, though these arguments have been the analysis that I stand upon is at least 40 years old. This is not new material at all, and it comes from the Reformed camp of biblical Christianity, and it seeks to make the argument that God has a claim on the individual soul, but also on culture as a whole, and all of its institutions, every single one. And so what I want to get to, unless you call me, which you're free to do my calling, the question is, do we want justice or do we want security? David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital